Hello, hi Nati, Cedric, Kelebohile, and Mamelu. Um, Welcome, Atfili.
Afternoon, Ike, and the class.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay. Okay, so some people will join later. Okay. We will start. Let's give people 5 minutes. So Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's get on the way. Yeah, but people, I want to say you really actually have to make time for it to be in class. So I understand that there's work pressures and things to do, but think about it this way: if we were meeting physically in Cape Town, you'd have had to take time off to be here for the full duration of the class. Okay, so it's very, very important that you are in class, because otherwise you're missing out on learning. What you pick up in recording is not the same as what you pick up, when the live class is going on. So please, very, very important. I can understand coming late, but if you're flying and traveling and things like that, when we have class, that means you've not worked on scheduling your time better. So please let that improve, especially for the next course. I know in fact, this is the last week of lectures, so I will give it to you for this week. But please, since you have the time and dates already for the last course, please make sure you have negotiated your time so that you are in class for the full duration of class. Because the next course you'll be working in groups. It's quite intensive. Okay, it's quite intensive. And if you miss class, you've missed a lot. And it's not something you can catch up. It's not something you can nearly catch up with recordings. Okay, so I just thought to mention that so that you're able to get the full benefit of the next course. Okay. All right. So this is our last week of lectures. Next week we have lectures, because you need to start by next week. You need to have at least gone through the exam brief and start thinking around how you're going to tackle the exam. So that Cedric, I'm very reluctant in saying when recordings will be available, because providing you with recordings is actually a courtesy. It's not supposed to be a permanent thing. Yeah, because as you can see, because of recordings, some people may then think, okay, I have a backup. And because of that, they don't prioritize coming to class. Yeah. So please, people don't make it that when we have, so don't ruin it for next year students, is what I would say. Because if this continues, it means next year we'll tell the students, okay, sorry, we're not providing recording for lectures because of previous years. Okay. So I don't know if you saw the announcement. Some of the recordings are available. I don't know if you saw the announcement this morning. I put an announcement this morning. Yeah. So some of the recordings, some of them are not yet. Like I told you, Teams is not the best. That's what I've seen, because they don't, I don't know how they do it, or maybe we're not doing it well. Something we have to investigate. Teams, so you have captions happening now with Teams, but when it's downloaded, it does not include the captions. I don't know why. So we're still investigating why. So I have to then work manually to caption it, to caption the videos. That's why it's taking long. That's why it takes long, which is Zoom is very, Zoom does it, but Teams, I don't know, but UCT will use Microsoft Teams. So it's something we have to investigate and know why. And then maybe it does, maybe we're not putting the right settings. I'm not sure. Yeah. So some of them are already available, so you can go check it out. Lynette is working, and we also have a space issue, So Lynette is working on the other. I've identified the recordings that are missing, so she's working on it. And once that's available, I'll then put that up. Okay. But thanks for the question. It's very important, because as people have questions, please ask. So everybody, welcome. So like I said, this is our last week of lecture, and it has flown so fast. We're already at the end of DCE. And so next week we don't have lectures. So like I said, I know you're submitting your assignment, you're supposed to have at least glanced at the exam brief that has been posted. Okay, Kelebohile, I'll come to you now. So supposed to have glanced at the exam brief that was posted and start looking at how you are going to go about it, what vignette you want to choose, and things like that, so that you can come with questions on Thursday. Thursday session, part of the session will be engagement with Kofi, and then the other part of the section will be question and answer, because I wanted to put the exam question and answers to following week. I just said, no, I think it will be too late, So let's rather have the discussion now, so that when we have the discussion on Thursday, you will know what you don't know yet and what you know. So that if you now have further questions, you can send an email to Nati and myself, and we'll be able to respond to your questions. Okay. So before we start, I think I saw Kelebohile's hand up. Kelebohile, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question.
Oh, okay.
But
like a t-shirt.
I was just in concurrence with what you were saying, that time has really passed us very, very quickly. And according to my perception, it feels like it's all a lie, because I feel like we've been going through so many readings and so much content. It's been very intensive, and we've been struggling to navigate around all of that. So when I saw the exam announcement, I was panicking, because I thought I really have to go back to the information that I think I have missed and the articles that I have not gone through yet. This semester really, really rushed quickly.
Yeah, very, very true. And if you've noticed, life has been like that for some time now, where the year is, when did we start January? We're already this is already August. Before you know it again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. And then we go through the cycle again. I remember when I was saying Happy New Year, it was like yesterday, like 2 days ago, I was saying Happy New Year to colleagues and everybody. And already we're in August, September, October. Once we enter the bars, I call them the imbars, September, October, November, December. Once we enter the imbars, the year is over for me. It's over. Yeah. So yes, you're right. And this course does contain a lot of content. So that's why I say it's about, you have to look and see which you want to take to support your argument and your case. That's what you have to do. You're not expected to read every single thing, but take the ones which support your arguments the best and implementing, and especially understanding what the questions are asking. So that's why attending the tutoring sessions is very important, because there you'll be able to ask questions with Ndani and get more answers, and also when you come to class. And so that's what we try and make, because with the discussions we have in class, you actually have everything you need. You actually have everything, because we go beyond the engagements, even the articles and everything. Discussions we have in class covers a lot of things we've spoken, in the readings and other areas. And today, actually, you got to get a little bit of the ICF, which Unati, spoke about, because Dr. York covers a little bit of the ICF. So this week is around physical impairment, is the last aspect, okay? So we're going to go through, I think, 2 videos, not 3, because I just decided the ones that are important is Kofi's video. We'll go through Kofi's video, and then we'll go through Jörg's video, because Jörg's video is a consolidation. Jörg introduces CP, which Kofi did and Dureya did, but then you will see Dureya and Kofi come in again to talk about the experience of physical impairment at schools, the environment. So you see a practical implementation. In fact, Kofi then goes even more into UDL solutions and UDL considerations when you're talking about cerebral palsy, physical impairment, and the rest of it. So I think that's what, and we'll go through, because Kofi's video is short, but Jörg's video is a bit long. So we'll go through those 2 only, and then have a discussion. But before that, anybody has any questions or comments before we start? I would have done a temperature check, but we have quite a lot of stuff to go through to cover. But is there any comments anybody wants to make or questions?
It's just something in general. So yeah,
Yes.
I will be I won't say participating, but I will be involved in the policy review starting September, the UCT, with Edwina. So it's going to be interesting. Going through all the,
Is it disability policy?
yes.
Okay, so I'm expecting to see what you've learned from this course.
No, yeah, we have to review all the documents. Yeah,
I don't think you should have told me, because now I'll put a keen eye on it, and
I'll turn to you guys for advice. Don't worry.
and I'll be saying, okay, Cedric has done this course. I want to see his input. But that's good.
Yeah,
It's good,
very
it's
good.
been- yeah, I'm part of the admissions subcommittee, and subcommittee, and we've not gone to that area yet, but it's a good thing. Definitely. Yeah. So you bring some of the learnings you've gotten from this course, especially around full participation of people with disabilities. Get over here. Yes, please go ahead. Excuse me.
Okay, I'm actually excited and interested to hear more about the topic of discussion about cerebral palsy, especially physical environments, the interaction, because all the time I think I have realized that people with cerebral palsy are mostly associated with the medical model of disability. So I want to understand CP through the lens of disability, the social model. So I want to learn more about that. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this session so much.
Great. That's good, Kelebohile. But you will come to pick up also that it goes beyond the physical, because including with cerebral palsy is the emotional, is the psychological. All those, are also, part of it, and then the stigma. But also some of the ways we respond to disability. I think we talked about it in the first semester. I mean, when we talk about disability, which sign do you often see? as a symbol of disability? Which sign is most common when we talk about disability that you witnessed? Anybody?
I briefly went through the videos last night, so I think you're referring to the othering.
Yeah, no. So I said no. What I mean is that
Okay.
when they are depicting a sign, let's say you go to the toilet, you go to the parking, a sign for to represent disability. Which sign do you often see?
The wheelchair, yes, the wheelchair.
Exactly. So that's also a big misconception. So when people lack awareness, they usually just think that when you talk about disability, it's physical. It's physical impairment, and they don't, and that's why sometimes you have challenges whereby the person is trying to explain that there are invisible disabilities as well. Someone is saying, no, you're just lying, you're just pretending, you're just doing this or the rest of it because they lack awareness. Yeah. And then talk about mental, illness, mental challenges and things like that. People don't want to acknowledge that. So no. Especially in some African contexts, you say, no, you're just you can't handle life or things like that. Not knowing that is actually that constitutes that limits participation, in persons. All right. So let's jump into it then. Natty, please, as usual, please just jump in at any particular. Yeah.
Okay.
Is this? Yeah. Like I said, this week is around physical impairment. So we'll go to describing the important physical conditions that lead to physical impairment and how they present themselves. Does Kelebohile, is that a new hand? Is that a new question? Or is an old, or is a legacy hand, as they say?
Legacy hand.
Okay, all right. Identify barriers to learning experienced by learners with physical impairment. So we'll talk about the impairment, but it's very important to know the impact on learning, because that's what we're about, disability studies in education. Application of teaching strategies. What kind of teaching strategies would lead to inclusive, learning in our educational context for people with physical impairment, learners with physical impairment, the importance of human rights and legal issues, okay, that angle which we've been talking about a lot, the experience in the lives of learners with cerebral palsy, with CP, and then explore perspectives of learners with physical impairment, parents, community members in the education of learners with physical impairment, with a specific focus on the social exclusion and participation. So that's why I want to go into Jörg's videos, because to bring out that social and participation exclusions through Dureya's and Kofi's presentations, and analyze how UDL can help, okay, in the learning environments, and for learners with physical impairment. Okay. So I also, in this week, there's no online activity. Okay, there's no online activity. So it's also opportunity. So this week, next week, no online activity. So it's also opportunity for you to catch up on whatever you missed. Okay, things to read. There's also opportunity. So you have two weeks of no online activity and no assignment. And so really, please really use the time to catch up on areas which you might have been missing, and explore readings which you think might help support your building your argument, either to submit the assignment or for the exam. Yeah. All right, so let's start with Kofi's video. Okay, just give a thumbs up if you can hear the video.
Hello.
Okay, great.
My name is Dr. Fni Nsebu, a postdoctoral research fellow. I am very happy to have you and to discuss with you issues around learners with physical disabilities. The topic for our discussion today is understanding the impact of physical impairments of learners. Understanding the impact of physical impairments of learners. By the end of this lesson, we will be able to understand the impact effects of physical impairments on children in the classroom. Number two, list at least 3 barriers that impacts on children with physical impairments in the classroom. At this time, I want us to watch a very short video. After we watch the video, then we will continue. Let's watch it.
Big distinct difference between a partially accessible school and a fully accessible school. In partially accessible schools, there's certain classrooms or maybe like clubs that I wouldn't be able to do because of an accessibility like barrier. But in fully accessible schools, I'm able to access everything that I would want to. So it was really important for me to only look at fully accessible schools because I wanted to have the typical high school experience just like everyone else.
Just like everybody else, I'm looking for, rigorous curriculum. I'm looking for teachers who are nice and supportive. I'm also looking for fully accessible schools. Only 11 out of 120 schools are fully accessible in the whole borough of Brooklyn.
Part of the reason why I chose Beacon in the first place was that it's in a fully accessible building that was erected in 2015.
Accessibility was a big part for looking for high schools for me because I couldn't go up and down the stairs like everyone else from period to period. There were schools that were not fully accessible. Like I would have to go up the stairs to go to the gym because the elevator wasn't there, or it would often be broken down.
There wasn't much choice. I told my parents what I wanted. We visited 2 schools, Bard Queens and School of the Future. It must be a fully accessible school for me to attend it.
Accessibility wise, that was the number one thing. Even though I really, really wanted to go to an arts-based high school, my mom really set that to be the first thing on our list.
I remember looking at one school that was advertising as fully accessible, and I went on a tour of that school, and it was a brand new building, and I thought, oh, this could be a great option for me. I went to go use the bathroom, and I couldn't even get into the bathroom or turn around, even though it was the accessible bathroom. So I found that kind of confusing.
They might just not have elevators, so I'll have to stay on one floor the whole time, or they don't have an accessible bathroom. So every time I need to use the bathroom, I'll have to climb up 4 steps, which is physically tiring, obviously.
I think it's important to be able to explore, to be able to say, yes, I can go to your room, teacher, and do this, and you don't have to change the, rooms around.
Full accessibility was the first cut. I didn't look at any non-accessible schools. Then I looked at schools with strong academics.
I remember going on a school tour that was somewhere pretty far downtown. And to get there, I had to take the subway. And what I remember on that day, I had to take 5 elevators just to even get out of the subway onto the street. And then there was another elevator that was broken, and it was just a whole situation. And then I got to the tour late, and I was like, if I can't even take the subway to this school, then why would I even consider going there?
Yes. Welcome back. So you see, when we talk about the impact or physical disability, it has to do with a whole lot of things. You have watched the video. What questions can you ask yourself about the impact and the accessibility that children with physical disability have when they find themselves in the various schools? We have a lot of questions that we can ask ourselves. Now, as a moment, thank you. A number of conditions may result in physical impairments, some of which are permanent, others are temporal or intermittent in nature. Some of these conditions include cerebral palsy, arthritis, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and repetitive strain injury. Speech and vision may also be affected in students with cerebral palsy and multiple sclerosis. Back or neck injuries may also affect general mobility. Physical disability may also result from head injury, acquired brain injury. Generally, physical disability or any other disabilities may occur at prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal period of pregnancy. When we talk about prenatal, that is from conception till labor. A lot of factors are accounted for children or persons having any kind of disability. Perinatal is the duration of labor when the mother is about to deliver, to give birth. And the postnatal is where the child has finally come down. So at every stage of the prenatal, perinatal, and postnatal, there are a lot of factors that may be responsible for a person becoming disabled or a child having physical disability. We still move forward. Now let's look at the definition of physical disability. According to the Disabled World 2015 and the Euroqual Group of 2009, a physical disability is a physical condition that affects a person's mobility, physical capacity, stamina, or dexterity. This can include brain or spinal cord injuries, multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, respiratory disorders, epilepsy, hearing and visual impairments, and more, and have more and more and more and more. Who are learners with physical disabilities? Learners with physical disabilities may have problems related to movement, posture. For instance, sitting, standing, walking, grasping or manipulating objects, communication, eating, perception, or reflex movements. Some of devices that learners with mobility or physical impairments use or may use are wheelchairs, crutches, or stick, light cane, hearing aid, real materials, academic barriers also account and impact the learners in their classroom. Now let's look at the impact of physical impairment on the learner. Coordination and balance may be mildly or severely affected by any of these conditions. 1. Movement may be impaired by muscle spasms, numbness, and or pain. As a consequence, both manipulation of equipment and the writing may be difficult. Some students use wheelchairs to enhance their mobility, whilst others will walk with the aid of calipers, crutches, or walking stick. Some students may experience chronic fatigue, and for others, there will be extreme fluctuations of energy from day to day. Now let's look at the impact of physical disability on learning of our children who are in schools. The impact of physical disability on learning will vary, but for most students, the issues of most significance relate to the following. Number 1, physical access. When we talk about physical access, we are referring from home, transportation from home to the school, the roads and the road network that leads to the school. We also talk about the school compound. We talk about the classroom itself. How does it look like? Manipulation of equipment. Example, in the laboratory and in the classroom. Access to computers, such as modified keyboards, on-screen and touch-screen keyboards, specialized mice, text and screen reading software, speech-to-text software, magnification software, and eye-gaze communication devices. Participation in field trips and the time and energy expended in moving around campus. I remember in my own case, when I was doing my master's program, I had a workshop. And at the end of this 3-day workshop, the group decided to go on excursion. And that was in Ghana. And the university was Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So we traveled to Obuasi gold mines. So they were to take us underground, where they do the digging, where they do the mining. Those of us who were disabled were denied. They told us that no, you cannot go there because you are disabled. There are a whole lot of things that impact on our learning. Apart from the physical things that we see, we have the psychological, have the emotional. And you see the picture number 3. This is a staircase that is leading to a classroom. A child with a wheelchair. How he or she have access to the classroom? The picture number 4 depicts a crowded class where children are seated on the ground, just on the ground floor. And you see at my extreme right hand corner, picture number 5, and you see a classroom and a chalkboard. Seeing how this chalkboard are splitted into 3, and then you see how the classroom has been arranged. These are environments that impact on the learning of a child with physical disability. Students may be affected in the following ways. When there is limited time to move between venues, students may miss the beginning of the class. For this first point, when I was doing my undergraduate study, bachelor's degree at university, I had to carry tables and chairs from one lecture hall to the other lecture hall. Me, being physically disabled, this affected my learning greatly. Number 2, more time may be required to do some tasks. Somebody may use 5 minutes to write a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. Another child who is physically impaired may need 1 hour to write just a paragraph or 2 paragraphs. Fatigue is common for many of these students using facilities such as toilets, as we heard from the video, food outlets, libraries, lecture rooms may be a major task. Students may have frequent or unexpected absence from class owing to hospitalization or changes in their rehabilitation or treatment procedure. Earlier periods of hospitalization may have immense gaps in schooling. Students with a long-standing mobility disability may have experienced gaps in their school due to the periods of hospitalization. This may have affected their confidence in learning. Students with a mobility impairment may have fewer opportunities for interaction with other students. Feelings of separateness in the learning environment may have an impact on learning. Students, we can use UDL to support these learners. How can we support them? Facilitate discussions with students. So here, facilitating discussions with students means make sure that the school environment and the classrooms are all accessible to learners with physical impairment. So here, we can address learner variations. So for this first point, if you recall, principle number 1, the principles of UDL. Principle number 1, engagement, sustained efforts, and persistence. Discussion fosters collaboration and community. Number 2, provide transcripts of self-made videos or screencasts, like what I'm doing, from the presenters or via Wing with words. Here again, you see the principle number 2 also coming into play. Representation. Perception. Transcript provides an alternative for auditory information. Let's go to the next, which is the third Write instructional and contextual text. Go with readings and videos. So we can also see that to address learners' variations, here we can use the principle number 2, representation. So here, comprehension, highlights patterns, critical features, big ideas, and relationships. And number 4, how can we support them? Allow students to respond via text, voice, videos, charts, diagrams, body language, etc., etc. So once you give this opportunity to learners, you are practicing the principle number 3 of UDL, action and expression. Expression and communication. Use multiple media for communication. For example, blogs allows for responses via text, video, audio, and all other platforms. We shall soon come to the end of the presentation. Here are some few references that I have made with regards to this presentation.
Right. So let's have a brief discussion. What issues or insights did you pick up from that short video? Sometimes, Gabriela says in the chat, sometimes people have misconception about the sign when using public toilets. Oh, okay, I think that's in response to my previous question. Yeah. Anybody, what insights did you pick up from that video? Cedric, go ahead.
I think for me, it's
Cedric
even
prepared, yeah? Yeah, go ahead.
no, even before the even before
Yes.
the learning starts, there are many challenges that they have to go through before they even get to the physical school venue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before the learning starts, already they're going through different emotions just to
Yeah.
get into a classroom. I think that is my main take from the video.
So, Cedric, thank you very much that you spotted that, because that's the main thing I wanted to highlight. When we want to go to university, we go online or word of mouth, or we go through brochure or things like that. What are able-bodied people normally doing when they do that? When we are looking for a university to attend. So we usually are looking for universities that have courses or disciplines that we want, that fits our interest. But what Cedric is saying is that for learners or students with physical impairment, that is not even the main priority for them. You can hear all of them mentioning that same theme, accessibility, that when they are looking at the university, they are checking, is this school accessible? Not only that, because if you notice what they were talking about, there's a difference between accessibility on paper, accessibility on website, accessibility verbally, to accessibility physically when I get there. You heard some of the students saying that when they got there, they now found that, oh, there was a challenge here, this lift was not working there, ramp and the rest of it. So that is the extra challenge and extra layer of barriers that present with learners and students with physical impairments. In that, non-disabled students are already thinking about, oh, okay, do they have a strong physics department? Oh, can I study engineering? Oh, can I study architecture? While students with physical impairment are thinking, can I get around the campus? What is the classroom arrangement? What are the attitudes of the lecturers? Oh, is there a lift? And is there constant power? I mean, just check, remember our context, although I really praise our Minister of Electricity, honestly. Honestly, I have to give that guy a thumbs up. Because I heard we're actually even sitting at an excess. I don't know if you heard about that. We're sitting at an excess of electricity, and they're looking at what are they going to do with it, you know? So I mean, when we're having load shedding, that had a big and huge impact for learners with physical impairment. When we were having lectures, if you were here physically, we're having lectures in the health sciences faculty. There's a building called the Wolfson building. So there, when the Amatuba training you guys had, we had to do it in a physical lab. And that physical lab was located at the 7th floor. But the toilet was located on the 5th floor. And that was when we were having load shedding. We had a student on wheelchair, and when load shedding occurred, the lifts stopped working. We had to carry the student. And even before we carried the student was already negotiating how can I tell my classmates that I need to go use the restroom on the 5th floor? Why do you think that's particularly a challenge for the student on a wheelchair? What challenge does that present? I will call someone. Cedric, you're safe because you already spoken. So I will call someone. Let's see. Tabisa has come to save the day. So not Tabisa, Masabata. Masabata, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
I think the issue of using the restroom, it's a challenge for everyone.
Yes.
There's an advert on TV where they're showing a lady in an office. I think it's full of male
There we go.
colleagues, and she needs to use the restroom, but she can't even go because she is embarrassed to say to them, I need to go. So imagine now if you need to ask someone and you need to add on top of that the issue of saying, come with me, because that is a space where you would want to go alone or you just want to disappear and go. But now it becomes an issue of dignity as well to be inviting someone when you are going. So I think that is the main issue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. You introduced an angle I didn't think about. I'll talk about it, but let's give Kelebohile a chance to also get input. Kelebohile, please go ahead.
Yeah, Alice has got an input also in the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay, Kelebohile, wait. Let me read Alice's input and then I'll come to you. Alice says, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, the student's dignity is challenged. Yes, Alice, just like Masabata noted, yes, you are right. But Masabata introduced an angle I've not thought about. And I'm going to talk about it. Kelebohile, please go ahead. Or if it's the same thing you want to say, just let us know. We're getting background noise.
Okay, I got very significant points from the video. The first one is about physical impairment. It's that people with physical impairment have the incapability to learn. And also students have a big mobility or motor difficulties. So simultaneously, cognitive capacity as well to engage with the curriculum. It should be there in the schools. Secondly, what I got from the video is that yes, the environment itself poses disability. That means that there are no stairs, there are no ramps to access the toilets, and the desks as well are not very accommodative. Poor transport, inaccessible learning materials, and also the structure of the classroom is inaccessible. And that can hinder participation of students with CP and physical disabilities. Thirdly, we need to see beyond the medical model. We need to see beyond the medical conditions. That basically means that it's significant that probably we need to understand or ask ourselves, for instance, in what situation does the student, in what situation is the student in? And also, we need to ask what barriers does the student encounter in the school environment? My final point is on student participation, because that has to be the center for inclusion. Students with disabilities, with physical disabilities, we require ramps for them to access classrooms. And having those kind of modifications is not enough. We also have to take into consideration participation, the literature, oh, not the literature, sorry, interpreter's mistake, the lesson, the coursework, the participation in sports, also the social interaction with other students. Similarly, we also need to view the attitudes from the teachers. So this means that sometimes, yes, teachers can have low expectations from the students. And academically, sometimes you'd find that teachers have assumptions about the capabilities of students with CP and physical disabilities. And also, teachers can tend to be very overprotective. So all those factors become barriers to learning for students with CP and physical disabilities. Furthermore, communication is very difficult, especially for CP people. We know that communication can be very difficult because most of the time people underestimate the students' capabilities due to the communication difficulty, and also the learning capabilities and the intellectual as well. So it's quite significant that we need to see the differences between communication or motor impairment, as well as cognition. So all of those barriers are built are dimensional. So that means that we talk about the environment, the social attitudes, economical curriculum, assessments, and technology. And adaptability, it has to promote participation rather than discrimination or exclusion. So support for students to participate with their non-disabled peers is possible.
Okay, Kelobele, wrapping up.
The network is not very good.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, you should be wrapping up.
Yeah, I think that will be all from me.
Okay. Well, I should have just told you to carry on with the lecture because you've just gone through the whole you've just gone through the whole lecture. So I should have given it over to you. Say, Kelebohile, please, because you've gone through enumerated various layers of engagement that is required for approaching a holistic approach to inclusion of learners with physical impairment. Yeah, so thanks for that. The whole number of things which was mentioned and is good is being recorded, so people will be able to engage with that. But I would just want to highlight the areas in terms of, because those are areas, because with physical impairment, people usually think is just, is mostly around curriculum, the buildings, but we often forget about what you mentioned, the social aspect, sports, organizations, clubs and societies at the university. And then you now moved into the macro level. So you actually, I don't know if any of you have engaged with what we call Bronfenbrenner's ecological model. Is where he used different systems to quantify how systems interact with each other. So he now went into economical. So we have economical, of course, we have political, we have representation, and the rest of it. But economical, definitely, there's access to buildings. Access to buildings. So being able to, especially being able to have the money to pay for transport. In one of those videos, one of the learners talked about how it's not even before getting to the buildings, the transport from home. Kofi talked about it. Transport from home to school can also constitute a barrier, and a numerous amount of studies. Prof. Lorenzo will talk to you about it in MDIS. She will tell you about research studies we did in Northern Cape that highlighted the impact of transport for participation of persons with disabilities. Right? Everybody knows it. For you to be able to, a lot of you are talking about traveling, flying from one place to another, moving from one place to another. That's transport. So imagine for persons with physical impairment, they're not able to do that. Okay. So before I come, I'll just say what I picked up from Masabata's contribution, then go to Sibonello and then Unati, and then we'll now move to the second video. So Masabata, what I wanted to say, which you highlighted, yes, we talked about which you highlighted dignity, okay, which is very, very important. Dignity is dignity, confidence, and self-efficacy. Those are what we call almost the soft skills area, which is not really, is what we call the non-academic skills areas. And in my master's, I actually said that, they need to be put on the same level as hard skills. So when we talk about calculation, talk about being able to articulate your words, being able to work on the computer, those hard skills, soft skills need to be, because what you find is that in university, we put less value on soft skills and those non-physical skills than hard skills. But what we forget is that those soft skills inform agency. the ability of a student to take charge of their own learning. Agency is informed by how confident they are, is their dignity respected, and carrying a student on wheelchair from level 7 to level 5 impacts on their dignity. That's one. But Masebata mentioned something very important: gender. Imagine in that classroom, if it's a lady and she's the only female student in that class. Imagine asking men to carry her, or the reverse also. If it's only females and is the person with physical impairment on the wheelchair is a male, having to think of asking ladies to carry him to the bathroom. And just like we said, restroom is a private matter. It's a highly private matter. And so I'm trying to make you know that persons with disabilities negotiate very difficult circumstances. And some of them are not visible, are not explicit, they're implicit. But they have to negotiate those things and then find a way, and that impacts on agency, impacts on confidence, which in turn impacts on ability to be able to learn. Because while you and I are thinking about, that question that was asked, okay, we're going on tea break. Please engage with the question that was asked so that when we come back from tea break, you give an answer. The student is thinking about, how can I get to the toilet? While you and I are thinking about an answer. So we now come back from tea break, you and I have an answer, we're engaging, the person on the wheelchair is quiet. And we then make the assumption, they don't know, they don't understand. That is not it. They have been dealing with other barriers that impact on their dignity, Dignity is a huge one. Think of situations where your dignity has been compromised or has been impacted. Just think about it. It's not a pleasant thing to go through. So just be aware of those non-physical, challenges that are attached to learning for persons with physical impairment. Okay, so let's go to Sibonelo and then to Nati. Sibonelo, go ahead.
Good day, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Oh, thank you so much. I just like the presentation as well with the videos that was played, and also the questionnaire about the wheelchair icon, of which when you start with the video, then the video what I picked up is that the students has that desire to choose the teachers that you like them to educate them, such as supportive teachers as well as nurse teachers. That's how I perceive that within students with disabilities, still today, they still have those desires of people that need to accommodate them, of which it shouldn't be that way. Instead, they should be the inclusivity education so that student won't be able to choose. It has to be like normally if a student wants to go to any certain school, he or she is comfortable. And then the other thing that I've noticed, this was the kid mentioning that when there is no lift or when there's a power failure in the lift, the kid has to go upstairs, of which is one of the things that I recognize that within the school facilities, when it comes to application facilities, there's no much support in such a way that there must be backups. If maybe there are no lifts, they need to support students. At least there must be evacuation chairs or backup generators. They need to support students in order to be able to access the building. As well, what I liked about the video as well was the thoughts that the inclusive education can be practical, especially in mainstream schools, in such a way that when I saw a student with a cerebral palsy, at the same time, she has a moving disorder. So there was a support, I don't know, maybe that was a teacher or an assistant who was supporting her to read the numbers and to be able to use those codes to answer the questions when she was being interviewed. And then speaking about the wheelchair icons, I have this confusion whereby the wheelchair icon, yes, they were there to demonstrate and to notice that maybe this area or this operation facility must be used by people with disabilities. But at the same time, people who are wheelchair users, the majority of them, the only thing that's if there is that icon, maybe in the toilet, it must only be utilized by wheelchair users only. Hence, people who are on cerebral palsy, who don't have a full balance, they are also required to use those toilets. So last year there was a scenario when I attended one of the event at work, whereby I was called to intervene. A wheelchair user wanted to use the toilets, and then inside there was one of our employees who was using crutches, and then when we waited to see who was in the toilet, it was someone who was on crutches. And then the person on the wheelchair user wanted to fight against the person that was using crutches. And then we said, no. This employee also required to use that toilet due to his condition. So the wheelchair user wanted to escalate the cases. And then to me, it's come to a sense, even in parkings as well. I myself, and as a Sodom Selegu, I only use people with disabilities parking space because when I have to open the door, I have to open it widely. So the parking space as well, they have this wheelchair icon of which it must be utilized with people with physical disabilities. So even there, you find that the securities as well, they will tell you that you must not utilize this wheelchair, this parking space because it's only for wheelchair users. Of which I think that when it comes to the disability awareness as well, it's another thing that we must be continuously being educated about it, especially the icons, because majority of us, we are still confused to say this section must be utilized by which people with which certain of disabilities. Hence, some of us, we do understand that once you are declared with a certain condition, this is how you must need to be supported and accommodated. So I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sibonelo, for that. I made a note of something, but I will come to it this time. Let me give Nati opportunity. Thanks, Sibonelo. Backup is very important, and of the electricity. That's what we did at Health Sciences, whereby at that time when there's load shedding, we make sure that the backup generator they have service only the lifts, so that when there's load shedding, the lifts are still working, even if there is no light in the order, and that helped solve the issue. Yeah. So thanks. Unati?
The discussion has been long and interesting. I'm not sure if my points will still be relevant, but I will still say them in any case. I wanted to talk about two things mainly from that video that I want us to note. That disability has got a tendency of I don't want to say people who have a single type of a disability are lucky or are better, but disability in most cases will come in multiple layers. But what happens when we are placing learners in schools, or when people place learners in schools, or when we are judging people living with disabilities, we use the primary disability and we forget about the other ones. For instance, if a child has got CP, they will be placed in a school for physical disability. And yet it is known, but it is not considered first, the fact that there might be other disabilities like your speech and your cognitive and other disabilities. So I think for us who are exposed in such lectures, we should bear that in mind, that when we are dealing with disability and when we are dealing with a diagnosed person or a diagnosis or a placed child in a school, we look at the primary, what is so-called the primary disability. And sometimes when we are doing accommodations, even for UDL, they will be based on what is primary. And we tend to forget that there is something else that is going on that might also be going on that is not catered for, that could be a barrier to successful education of that particular person. I'm bringing this up because we're talking of physical disability in this lecture. Just bringing it up that there could be other things that are going on that we don't need to turn a blind eye on, especially when we are talking about UDL and supports for our students or for the learners in schools. So when we look at those multiple layers of bodily impairments, if I can put it that way, there's this additional multiple layered social barrier component. So you see the burden that the person has, because they might not only be struggling with physical impairment, there could be other kinds of impairment. Plus these social barriers, they also come in multiple forms of barriers. I want to also pick up on the emotional or psychological impact of a disability, specifically physical disabilities. I've noted with the people that I've worked with or that I've interacted with that had physical disabilities, they are very emotional, and I think they are justifiably so because they are fighting for their rights. But I think somehow we need to have some kind of understanding that physical disability can also cause people to have other forms of reactions which are triggered by the fact that they have a physical disability. So it will be anger, it will be just some kind of non-regulated emotions that erupt because of the frustrations that are imposed by these social barriers on top of the physical impairments that they are feeling. So I think when we are talking about these things, maybe we might need to go to psychological issues that are associated with disabilities and emotional issues that are associated with disabilities. So I wanted to bring that up. And also, the second thing that I wanted to talk about was on the issue of choosing institutions and choosing careers. And if we have people in this room that are working in the area of career guidance and career development, specifically for, well, this does not only go for people with physical disabilities, but in general, people tend to choose careers that will solve their problems, or maybe that will, I don't know, solve other people's problems and not look at their personal capacities, whether they themselves will be able to carry out that kind of a career. I want to make an example here. We once admitted a student who had a mild CP. She wanted to study speech therapy because she was stuttering and she could not pronounce her words well. And she became passionate and thought that if she studied speech therapy, she would be able to help people that have got the same impairment as her. Well, we did not want to exclude, so we admitted that student. And in the first weeks of the course, she realized that no, she will not be able to become a therapist that helps with speech because she herself has got a shortcoming when it comes to that area, and it's not something that she will be able to overcome because she has learned about that problem. And fortunately for her, she had good marks and she had applied for other courses in the university. She was able to transfer to accounting, I think, and at least there was no demand on her to speak or to make people speak or to do that activity which she had a shortcoming on. So I wanted to bring that one as something that I want us to discuss or maybe to talk about or to think about, that besides the physical impairment and the social barriers that we see, there are also other elements that impact on those. One, the psychological and emotional that I've talked about. Two, I think I want to say internal barriers or personal barriers. I don't know if there's something like that, but where a person has got to realize that I do have this condition and therefore I will not be able to do A and be realistic about the situation without being emotional about it or being political about it. I don't know how this is sounding, but those are the things that I wanted us to bring up, which sort of in my mind gives us depth in terms of what we are talking about, that it's physical disabilities, but there's much more going on in people experiencing this, and those that are going on could become barriers in education.
Thank you, Nati. Thanks for that very, very valuable contributions and making us aware of the not getting trapped in the one-dimensional view, which is very, very prevalent today. So, oh, no, it's just physical. You know, we need to address the physical, but we don't think about, okay, what about the other challenges that the person might have and how do we able to, because if they are not addressed, there's still participation, challenges. So, and the person is not included. And one extra thing, which I picked up from what Nati was saying, physical disability is the one that is very explicit all the time. So we see it. So they have to deal, so when she talks, we have to deal with that pressure that it's different from someone with a mental, challenges. You can't see it, it's invisible. But someone with physical disability, they always have to, people always react because it is seen. We can see it, and things like that. So you spoke about many aspects, but I think one of that core areas is that there are other multiple layer challenges that also come with the other impairments, and that needs to be considered. And that's not something we've really touched on a lot, in the course, saying that there are multiple impairments. So students, please pay attention to share for this week's session, because when you meet a child with CP, there's usually other layers of challenges which are present, and it's not just physical. And Nati was talking about it. First reaction, put them in a physical, physically disabled school that caters to physical impairment, and then that's it. You just say, oh no, things are good, we're sorted, but it's not actually the case. Okay, Masabata, because Masabata, go ahead. We have 9 minutes.
Sorry, just before Masabata, I think I don't want Cedric to lose out on that point. He is saying his view is that it should be about the choice and access. Are you referring to the career choice for the student that I was talking about?
Yes, I was also thinking afterwards. We are the course keep on dwelling on assumptions. So yeah, we can't just. I know we should guide. I agree with you. Sometimes guidance is good, but it's a personal choice at the end of the day for the individual. So if the individual want to explore a certain path, then they should have the right to make that decision, and we should grant them access to that choice or to that learning path. But yeah, somehow I do agree with you. Sometimes we've had that experience also in the disability service where a student was in also in health sciences, but the condition deteriorated over time, and she couldn't finish at the end of the day. But we still advocated for the student to finish the course. but it had certain it had an impact going down the line, yeah.
Mm,
And
mm.
I think she graduated, but not to the full with the full what do I call it now? They gave her a certificate
Curriculum.
basically, but not the full degree
full
certificate.
curriculum.
Degree.
Yes, yes.
I hear that. Yeah, I think for us also, allowing in the student that had a physical disability was a matter of giving them, respecting their choice. But we knew that the demand of the course itself, her physical impairment will affect how she progresses in terms of what she needs to do now practically in the module. And therefore, I do agree that we have to respect the choices, but in terms of guiding, we can only give information and then people can decide what they want to do.
Yeah. So that's why a discussion is very important also, having a dialogue and discussion to say, okay, this is what it is. And I see, in fact, I see where both of you are coming from. And I think both of them need to be married together, because at the same time, like I said before, we've made progress in disability inclusion because we've sat down and said, is there a way we can, offer support for this to happen? And like I said, that's what I asked that fourth year medical student. I asked him, I said, have you even thought about a way? Because if you've thought about a way, you've engaged, at least you've engaged with it and say, oh, there's nothing now, then, we can see what alternative can happen or anything. But all those things need to happen. The choice needs to be given, the discussion needs to be had, and exploration on what can happen. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, Pastor Bata, cap us off for us to go for a break. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Ike. Actually, I was reminded by Dr. Unati's inputs now of the video that I came across last week, content for the video of her, I think it's Hannah and Adam, who was also having a variability of, what do you call this, impairments, and he was denied access in the schools. And now what I found interesting with regard to his case was that now the schools were, I'm not sure whether I should be saying using a sort of a reverse psychology, because most of the schools now started to be specializing. One would be saying, no, our focus is with deaf children, so we cannot accept him, because they were also focusing on the primary impairment, not looking at him holistically as a person. And when he goes to another school, the school will be saying, no, in this one, we're dealing with visual. So because of that, I think the video was actually emphasizing on how to accommodate him and using UDL. So my point of view in that was that if all these schools would have admitted him, they were going to be able to address all the learning barriers for all the learners by just using him because of those kind of impairments, the type of impairments that he had. So I'm just reminded of that video when she mentioned the primary impairment that we normally look at. Thank you.
So that's a very important point, because you're then saying that is one of those questions you remember. I think it was one of the online activities which was asking, what does the school benefit? What does a school or university or the education system benefit from the inclusion of learners with disabilities? And that's one of the things. Like I told you, this particular course, because of the need to include Kerebuhile, so that means the need to have captions on videos, I found an alternative way which allows me to do it with less cost implications. Because I was going to go to cost implication, it's going to be massive. But I found a way, and that only happened because we have Kerebuhile in the course, and so lecturers, you start finding more creative ways in order to be able to include students. And that's one of the advantages and that's why I always say, when you make the effort to include learners or students with disabilities, you end up including everybody in one form or way or another. But there's one very controversial question I want to ask. Well, you will tell if it's controversial. Then we'll go on a break. And I don't think I will ask for answers when we come back because I want us to go through the other video, which is long. Do you think people with disabilities can discriminate against other people with disabilities? So that's the question I want to ask. Because if you notice, it subtly came up with the way what we are describing. What we are describing, it was the way it subtly came. Can people with disabilities discriminate against other people with disabilities? And if so, what are the implications and what does that say? What does that say? Yeah, because an area we usually don't want to go into, but I want us to, think about it. We'll see if we have time to discuss, to go into that discussion. Yeah. All right. 2 minutes earlier, that's fine. So let's go for a break. Masabata says yes. Okay. Let's go for a.
That makes me think about the siblings fight.
Exactly.
They will discriminate, they will fight, but once you enter that conversation, we don't have the right to enter.
Exactly. And also when sometimes when you go into race, there are things which black people will say you're not allowed to, say, you're not allowed, those kind of things. Yeah. But it's discussions because we're talking about real life. It's discussions. And I asked that question because there's an implication for it, which I want to mention, which is very important, which is something persons with disabilities ask and speak about. Yeah. All right. So let's go for a break and we'll come back at 5. I will continue. We'll come back at 5. I won't run through the whole video for Jörg. I'm going to skip his session because his session is basic. I'm going to go into his session that talks about the ICF. So we're going to just talk about that and then skip the other sessions, then go, because I really want you guys to hear Dureya and Kofi's, the experiential part of physical impairment, the social, psychological, social, and other aspects, because very, very important. Yeah. All right. So see you all at 5 in 30 minutes time. Yeah. Thank you.